Hello, this is Kris Nelson from evolveconsciousness.org. I'll be reading the article Care for Truth, Inner Work, Remove Evil and Harm, published on the 26th of November 2014. I work on myself every day by seeking out truth and morality in understanding reality. I will until I die. I am not fully aware of all the wrongs I still do, all the issues I have, but I work to uncover reality and contrast my possible subjective falsity against its objectivity, to align my perceptions and conceptions of reality with reality itself. That is how I actually uncover the wrongs, errors, incorrectness, inaccuracy, falsity, evil, darkness, shadow, and negative in me. Objective reality and truth is required to reduce subjective unreality and falsity. Learn, gain quality knowledge, seek truth, and you will progressively better yourself through this acquisition of reality and truth. Most other people are not so interested in doing this, and they are fine believing in whatever they choose to believe. Some of these people are New Agers or pseudo-spiritualists. Some people believe everything is perfect in their life. They don't need to change. They don't need to learn. They don't need to work on themselves. They can just focus on superficial pursuits of pleasure gratification, pseudo-happiness, feeling good, enjoyment, and various distractions to not embark on the real, quote, spiritual journey and quest on the path and way of truth and morality. They don't need to develop true responsibility. They will just focus on their little zone of comfort, their little reality bubble, and work to make it more comfortable. They won't take up the responsibility and service to truth, to put aside the comfort, convenience, pleasure gratification, enjoyment, amusement, and entertainment, to figure out the deep root causal core foundational factors to the problems of the world that affects everyone on it. No, they only want to work on their own personal happiness and enjoyment. Multiply that consciousness, and you have the mindset of everyone in the Western world, and the rest of the world too. It's a lot more evident in the Western world, and then minus a few. So take everyone in the world, especially those in the Occidental Western world, and then, well, you can minus a few, maybe 1,000, and that's us who actually care to go to the depth of morality. So you have vegans who have some aspect of knowledge, but they don't understand the occulted aspect. You have people who look at the occulted aspect, but they don't see the overt, in-your-face aspect of the animal holocaust and billions of murders of beings that feel and think and cry and have joy just like us, and have their own families in some cases, as mammals do. It's a wrong, and we have no right to do it. So this consciousness of focusing on convenience, pleasure, gratification, enjoyment, amusement, entertainment, and not figuring out the deep root causal factors, that's the pleasure trap, a big problem for the evolution in consciousness. And I have a link to my article on the pleasure trap to explain that. Not many people will do evil if they understand it is evil. They will not do wrong if they know it is wrong. However, most people will do evil and wrong if they are told and believe it is, quote, good or, quote, right. Most soldiers and cops do what they do because they actually believe they are doing, quote, good and, quote, right. Otherwise, they would not likely choose to do that. So, of course, there are people who are suffering to greater degrees, and they take out that suffering and confusion in more external control and try to dominate others. And some of them actually do like to dominate, and they want to be predator dominators, and they want to inflict harm on people. So it's not that they think they're doing good and right. Well, they enjoy doing evil, and maybe they convince themselves it's good. I don't know. I'm not in that mindset of someone so degenerated. Like someone who does evil and harm and enjoys it, do they actually think that is good, or do they actually recognize it's evil? It's an interesting question, because it could be that they think it's good because it feels good for them. And that's why it's very tied into psychology. They don't have to know they're doing evil. They can just believe it's good because of what it provides them, this sick, twisted feeling inside. So yeah, they're damaged and they're evil and they're dominators, but do they understand how sick and perverted they are? I don't think they do. So this applies to everyone, that we choose to do what we do because we believe it's good and right. And sure, there's people who know that they're doing wrong and they keep doing it, but I don't think those are in high as number as the people who are fooled and don't think for themselves and just engage in stimulus response and go along to get along, and they just accept the conformity to the collective hive mind and just engage in the behaviors that are accepted in society. And if one group is said to have special rights to do because they protect others and they can do harm to others or violence, but it's for the good, it's the necessary evil, well, there's another justification. I don't accept it. They're doing evil, so it makes you evil, whether you think it's good or not. The belief is all that is required for them to have a self-image of being, quote, good, quote, right, and, quote, moral. They can do actions and justify them as right because they believe they are, quote, right and, quote, good. This belief does not make it so. They do not need to actually know truth and morality objectively to compare to their actions. They simply believe whatever they want. There are many things we are all conditioned to believe are, quote, good and, quote, right, but are not. Carnism is the biggest slavery and evil mechanism in our lives, and then comes statism as a result of that disconnect and predatory domination over others. So if you don't understand this, I've written a bunch about it already on the predatory dominator system, on carnism, and how I've talked about how harm against others is more egregious than harm against ourselves that we do in this thing called statism and government that we accept and perpetuate. The animals don't accept and perpetuate the murder we put upon them and the enslavement. That's the greater harm. And the harm we do to ourselves, well, let's see, we're 7 billion. We're not murdering 7 billion people every year. But the animals, there's over 50 billion land animals and hundreds of billions of marine animals that are murdered. So where's the bigger wrong? It's very, very simple. All you need is pure objective detachment, logic, and a care for truth and morality that does not concern you. You're just looking at what is moral and what is the greatest moral violation and what is the real root causal factor. So I don't care as much about myself in terms of ending slavery than I do about ending all slavery and all evil from the bottom line, moral foundation, moral baseline. We, the alchemists, the developing natural law causal agents, the true trivium method users, the active magicians, are trying to remove wrongs in ourselves and in our perceptions of reality, in our thinking, in our understanding, in our ways of living, in our behaviors, and help others do the same work. We seek to reform and recondition ourselves away from the false self towards the true self in harmony, unity, and alignment with truth and morality. Everyone else is not on this path, clearly, otherwise they would be embarking on the same initiation to learn and to aspire to actualize themselves in the ideal of truth and morality, yet they are not. They do not really care for truth and morality that deeply to change their ways, or even a little to embark on the journey in the first place to first learn more about morality. Because as far as they're concerned, they're good, they're moral, and they're doing right, so why would they need to learn about morality? They already know it. It's not important. They have no interest in truth, and many others, like so-called, quote, truthers, have no real deep interest in truth and morality, merely superficial, my truth, my freedom, my survival, based on information they are willing to accept. Personal preferences override the truth and morality. Those of us with real care for truth and morality do deep thinking about things, about ourselves, about reality, introspect, reflect, contemplate, true meditation, not the altered form, and we try to change, improve, grow, heal, better, and evolve because we know we are not perfect and things are not fine the way they are. Things need to change. We need to change. We need to change to help others change. Truth and morality is the way to true freedom and peace. Truth is one way. Go all the way because you can. Yes, it's extreme. It's extreme in one direction. Truth. What, you want to be two directions? You want to be dual, walking the checkerboard floor of good and evil? Well, I only want to go one way. Those who are not on this path, who do not really care for truth deeply, who do not care to align themselves with the truth and morality as much as they can, because they actually can, will condition themselves to not think as deeply and honestly about themselves or reality. That is why these many people, especially New Agers and pseudo-spiritualists, are upbeat and positive about their lives and behavior, despite the harm and illusions they are living in. They are ignorant. They focus their attention on the positive, on the quote good they want to see, and create a self-image of a quote good and quote moral person. Objective morality does not matter. We are all essentially brought up in this conformist program, and few of us break out. When someone who has broken out confronts them, those people who have not broken out, on their falsity, they deny, reject, excuse, justify, or ignore the truth and morality. They condition themselves not to think of the negative and create a rosy-colored unreality blinded by the optimism bias positivity mask. They, quote, feel good a lot, or at least that is what their self-inducing, self-manipulating, quote, intentional conception and desire is, and what they try to outwardly, quote, project as an image. So even though they're corrupted, they don't have true care, they haven't gone deep enough in truth and morality, they self-induce happiness as an intent. They intend to do good, they intend to be happy, they intend all this other bullshit, but they don't look into reality deeply enough to actually determine the objectivity of reality versus their perceptions and conceptions of reality, which are false. So all they do is project an induced image of happiness and goodness and rightness. They just project that outwards, even though they aren't living rightly. They're still creating evil, and they don't want to face how they're creating evil. So it's just a projection of outward, exterior facade of a positivity mask. It's an optim bias that they self-induce into themselves. They cast a spell on their own mind, and then they project a positivity mask so that they themselves believe in this mask, and other people will believe in the mask too. It's all inauthenticity from an unexamined life, because an examined life will bring you towards authenticity of a real self, authentically, in alignment in greater degrees with the higher self, the true self, the higher will, representative of truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law. They never face the immorality in themselves because they have induced a pseudo-reality, an unreality that induces, quote, feel-good affective states from the sustainment and maintenance of the artificial false concept in their consciousness. Mind, quote, mind over matter, quote, mind over reality. Do you see how that works in a negative sense? Is your mind over... yeah, I've talked about this in reality versus perception infographic. That's part of the Perceiving Reality audio. That's about audio-video presentation that's about 2 hours long. So mind over matter, yeah, your mind decides what the matter is, what reality is. You decide what reality is based on the pseudo-reality of your subjective beliefs and how good you feel about the beliefs and what they provide for your self-image and worldview construct. So then you project your mind onto reality as a false mirror. Now, I've talked about the 3 types of mirrors before in another audio. You have the mirror of, if I can remember this correctly, there's the mirror you project onto reality. There's the mirror where you conform to a false perception of reality. And then there's the real mirror where you look at reality and try to understand it honestly by looking into the mirror of yourself honestly. And you're not going to project your falsity onto reality, but you're going to actually look at things honestly. I think that's it. I explained it better in the other one because I was looking at my notes. Mind over matter, mind over reality, subjectivity over objectivity, unreality over reality, falsity over truth, etc. Just living in a delusional mindset. In their eyes, they are not, quote, immoral, quote, evil, etc. Their self-image, ego, personality, identity construct justifies and excuses the murder of other animals. So they do not consider honestly looking at themselves in true self-respect. So they're not able to look at the real mirror of the self-respect, looking at themselves. They're using the mirror to project falsity. Others will do the same with statism and excuse their involvement in perpetuating government. And the New Ager I lived with, well, his girlfriend, she was blinded by government. It didn't matter. She wanted to go into the party and change the world through government. She didn't want to learn about how it was authority and slavery. Send her information and she would just come up with long excuses about how she's trying and she's allowed to do what she wants and she's doing good. And it was all lies you tell yourself in order so that you can keep doing what you do. Just like why they wouldn't go vegan. They just kept telling themselves lies. Oh, well, I tried it and I lived in the Yukon and I ate kale and oh, it was hard and it's not sustainable. So you have to eat meat. And it's all lies they tell themselves because they failed to do it properly. So then they're convinced it doesn't work and it's not viable. Even though it's moral, even though the action is immoral and not engaging in the immoral action is a moral thing, that doesn't matter because truth and morality do not matter as much in their lives. They're looking for an easier way to live. If it was easy to live vegan, then everyone would be doing it, I guess. Because it would just be super easy. It is easy, but at first you think it's hard. And then, you have all these worries about nutrients, and I need blood, I need animal flesh for my menstrual cycle. It's like all these ridiculous excuses. Then you talk to real vegan women, and you tell them that, and they're like, what? The meat actually makes it worse. And then they're like, yeah, okay, well, that's the thing. The people just want to lie to themselves. They don't want objective reality. They want to lie over and over and over with all these excuses so that they can keep doing whatever they're doing. That's what people want, because they don't care for truth and morality. They just want to believe whatever they want to believe so that they can feel good about themselves, their self-image, and their worldview construct. To continue, they do not look at nor feel the negatives they are involved in. Their negative knowledge constructs are so strong as a mind virus that it is automatically negating the possibility of doubt and questioning if they are right or wrong in truth. So they don't have the doubt and the questioning and the curiosity to see if they're right or wrong. They just believe whatever they want to believe. They're not engaging in objective reality. And that's why I do call certain concepts pseudo-spiritual, because it's completely based in your mind, so in the internal unseen dimension of your consciousness, which is, quote, spiritual, because everything spiritual is unseen. So the spiritual dimension, well, that just means it's unseen, it's not here. So spiritual has a lot of connotations. The only connotation I accept, a real connotation for spiritual, is moral. Because if the will of the Creator wants or created natural moral law for higher order beings in order to progress in an evolution according to the evolutionary will of the Creator or creation, then spirit, the will of spirit, creates morality, or the will of spirit strives for morality, or whatever you want to see. It's the will of spirit and natural moral law are linked. So spiritual would mean moral. And that's the only connotation I think is important. It's not, so you can understand it as an unseen, as I've been detailing in my work. It's the unseen, it's spirit is the infinite. It's all the things that are sort of opposite of what we are. So we're infinite, we're in material, it's immaterial, so it's always the opposite. But in terms of what it's about, what it's really about to be spiritual is the will of the Spirit. Being spiritual is living in the will of the Spirit, the higher will, which is natural moral law. So to be spiritual is to be moral. If you want to say, to be spiritual is to be unseen and hidden and immaterial, well, I don't fucking care about any of that. What does that matter to me? You're talking about entities in other places? Well, whatever. They live in their own place. They can do whatever the fuck they want. I'm not there. I'm trying to end evil and slavery on my planet where I live, in this universe, in this realm, in this reality. Whatever's going on over there, well, that's not my life. I don't live there. I don't exist there. I don't operate there. So whatever. I don't care about any of that. You want to call that spirituality? Well, I call you a fool. A pure fool. Because you don't understand what real spirituality is. What being spiritual is. It's being moral according to the will of the Spirit. The all-one source God. To be moral, to live right and do good. So that's why you have all these posers, frauds, pretenders who run multiple Facebook groups and use Mark Passio's name to gain popularity, and people can't see through their lies. Yes, Constantine Draco Slayer, and that's all they're engaging in. All of these meditation and altered states and feel-good states where they can't face morality because they're going on vision quests and they're having dreams and seeing entities and channeling and astral and remote viewing and all this stuff, and they're stuck in other dimensions because they're still not on the ground. That's why they don't care about truth and morality enough, and that's why they're living in a fantasy world, because they think that's what being spiritual is meditation and oh, unless you've meditated, you're not spiritual and you're not blah 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 blah, all this bullshit. Well, unless you're living morally and you care about morally, you're not even a real human being. You're just a fucking lower order animal engaging in amoral living, which is to produce immorality. Because that's what animals do. They don't understand moral, and they live amorally, in not understanding morality. And then when they produce immoral actions, well, it doesn't matter to them because they don't understand morality anyways. It's just part of living and surviving. And that's what people do. They just want to live like animals, just living and surviving. Oh, and don't forget enjoying life. Live, survive, procreate, enjoy life, and die. The hamster wheel of life. So they don't doubt and question if they are wrong or right in truth. After all, they already know they are, quote, moral and, quote, good. Therefore, nothing anyone can say will prove otherwise. It's all belief. This mind control also seems to be negating the emotional compass to feel wrongdoings. They are numb and dead inside to some extent, not as fully developed as they can be, with deadened and undeveloped heart centers, care, compassion, empathy, conscience, and morality. We are all conditioned into this false living as a false self, but some of us break out enough to develop true care for truth and morality, and work on ourselves to better ourselves, to reduce our wrongs and harm in this world. You can care a little about your truth and your freedom, care more about your animal species, and then care even more about all animal species. It's the care to not do them harm, and to get other people to not do them harm, because we don't have a right to do them harm. The people who do not look at the negative honestly do so because they are focusing on this positivity optimism bias in their lives. They have conditioned themselves to not think. That is how they are always in peace and harmony with their contradictory beliefs and ways of living. They don't think about the problem. Problem solved. If you're not going to think about the problem, you're not going to recognize there's a problem, you're in denial about the problem, well then you can continue to be happy about yourself, cast a spell on your mind, self-induced states of happiness and intentional positivity, living in a positivity mask and optimism bias. And you'll be forever ignorant of reality and capable of changing it in real positive ways, because you're stuck in yourself, deluding yourself, because you're so attached to yourself. They don't want to face the contradictions when others try to help them. They want to keep ignoring it and justifying how, quote, right it is. Right, Constantine Draco Slayer? You stopped eating meat, but it's not for diet, which you tried before. Now it's because it's magical reasons in a dream. You said, oh, Father told you to do it, so now you're doing it in your own words. You still don't care about truth and morality. You're still not going for truth and morality. You still deny it's a moral issue, that these are wrongs. It's just, oh, it's magical now in your dream, so now you're going to do it. Because you self-induce that this is your higher self telling you in a dream. So you see how unconnected you are to truth and morality, to truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, true self, higher will. Because if you were already connected to it, you would already have been vegan. But you're not connected to it. This is just a dream you induced yourself. It doesn't come from your higher self. You're just lying to yourself over and over. This is pseudo-spiritual. Believe whatever you want. I'm special. Look at the dream I had. The higher self contacted me. Yeah, well, look at the rest of us who don't need to have dreams, and we actually care in our conscious waking reality to learn about morality and align ourselves with it. But you're too much of a coward to do that, aren't you? Poser, fraud, pretender, liar, con man. Conning yourself, most of all. That's what people do. People lie to themselves the most, and then it's really easy to lie to other people because you believe in the lie you told yourself. So you tell them about a wrong they do, and they can just ignore it and keep moving along because they do not really truly deeply care for truth. When you do have a deep care for truth, you can honestly face yourself in the mirror when new information is presented in true self-respect and see with real eyes to realize the real lies, your behavior, your falsity for what it is. Refusal to admit wrong, refusal to embrace truth is all from a lack of care for truth. It is a fear of looking into truth, resulting in ignoring the truth, apathy to truth, cowardice to truth, cowardice to stand up for truth, and laziness in living for truth. So when you have fear, ignorance, apathy, cowardice, and laziness, that's how it works. You don't want to look into it, so you're going to ignore it, you're not going to care for it, you're not going to stand up for it, and then you're not going to live it. Because you're lazy, coward, apathetic, ignorant, fearful, retard. Retard, slow. Yeah, you're slow in learning. You don't want to learn truth and morality. You're retarding yourself. You're conning yourself, lying to yourself. You are your own worst enemy. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.